Hello and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. As per usual, I have here David Pattinson. David, hi, and thank you for being here with us.
Nice to see you.
Likewise. So I would like to focus today's interview more on the Alex Hepburn's case. Now, I know that last week the jury failed to reach a verdict, and I would like to know what's your thoughts on that.
Well, this is a case about a famous cricket player. He's an Australian cricket player playing in Great Britain, and he was charged with rape over a year ago. They had a trial in January. The jury failed to reach a verdict, which means when that happens, it's not a conviction, so that the two scenarios happen when that situation occurs. You either have no further action and the guy's free to go, or the Crown Prosecution decide that they're going to do a second trial, and that's what they're going to do with the Alex Hepburn case. The second trial is scheduled for April of this year.
And what exactly is the cost factor in this decision?
Well, it's a really good question, actually, because there's the Crown Prosecution have spent a lot of money to put the case together, getting all the witnesses and getting all the, lawyers' time and administration time. This case has also been hyped up in the media. So from a feminist point of view, there's a vested interest in getting a conviction. They're determined to do it one way or the other. What I thought was interesting about this case, really two things. One is they had a majority female jury. So there was 8 jurors on this case, and they couldn't get a conviction for Alex Hepburn. I only know what I've read in the news, like everyone else, so you have to kind of trust the jury's verdict. What's also interesting about this case is it was very similar to the Paddy Jackson rugby players case from last year. I want to clarify that the rugby players were cleared; they were found not guilty. Hepburn was it was a hung jury. It was we can't convict, we can't acquit. They're deadlocked. The judge did say in the Hepburn case he would offer a majority decision, which is when you get 11 jurors on one side, but there's one holdout, and the judge becomes like the 12th juror to go with whatever the majority of the jury think. But they still couldn't get to 11. So there was obviously indecision in the jury, in this case.
It's quite interesting, taking into consideration the fact that both these two men were sportsmen with high-profile sportsmen.
Yeah.
And when things like this happen to them, it impacts them in a tremendous way in terms of image. And do you think this is something they can recover from?
Well, this is what's so interesting about these cases, because these are high-profile men. They have a lot of female attention. They have a lot of notoriety. You would say, in a logical sense, these would be the least likely men to rape anyone because they have so much female attention. If a girl turns them down, they can just go to their phone and find the next girl on the list, or go to the next girl at the bar. They'll be interested to have a relationship. The reason is because these are, athletic, fit, good-looking, attractive, guys. They have a lot of high incomes because they're professional sports people. So, that's why these cases to me are so insane, because these are the least likely men to rape anyone. If you haven't had a girlfriend for 40 years, you might be more likely to commit rape. But if you've got more girls than you know what to do with, it's highly unlikely that these guys would rape anyone. Yet these cases are not about the fact that they raped a woman. They're about the fact that they have too much female attention, and society via the justice system, through the feminist justice systems, wants to regulate the amount of female attention these men have, by threatening them with 15 years in jail if they have too much. So we have polygamy laws in society. You can't marry multiple wives at the same time, but these men, of course, are not married. We have a society now that where fewer and fewer people are getting married, and so these men are going to say, well, I'm not married. These women were willing to come back to the hotel room at 3 a.m. on a Saturday night, and this is something that's not really highlighted in the press. And in the court cases, the women's complicity in going along with the social occasion.
So if I got it correctly, you think that if a man is successful and is good looking, then it's very less likely that he will rape someone.
Well, what's the incentive to, Alexandrina? Because, these guys have they have either a girlfriend or they have multiple women that they're interested in. I mean, both these cases, the Jackson and the Hepburn, featured text messages from the guys talking about, we're sporting parlance about how they're, going out seducing women on a regular basis, and they're sort of keeping tabs with their teammates who are trying to do the same thing. So, what is the incentive for them to rape anyone if they have, just female abundance on a scale that most men do not have? Why would you risk 15 years in jail or 20 years in jail? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
By the way, about these text messages, do you think they are, I don't know, do you think they're breaking some sort of legal or moral law?
Well, this is the thing. We're talking about the law, aren't we? We're talking about written laws on the statute. The members of the public are aware of what's on the statute, and they have to, obey the law or fail to disobey the law. And of course, there's no laws about how many women you can date pre-marriage or outside of marriage. And, there's no laws about... we're not talking about moral behaviour in a court of law. We're talking about, laws that are on the books. And of course, what the Crown Prosecution tries to do in these cases is say, look, these are like unchivalrous guys. These are sort of undesirable guys. Therefore, we need to convict them in a court of law. We need to sort of imply that they're breaking the law just through uncaring behaviour or, rude behaviour or unchivalrous behaviour. But it's there's no laws on the books in the country that say you have to be chivalrous 24 hours a day, or you can only date one woman at a time. How do we regulate how many men or how many women a certain man is sleeping with? Do we have to put cameras in his bedroom? Do we have to put cameras, on his clothes? And if he sleeps with like more than 3 girls in a week, he has to go to jail. There's no laws on the books that say this. So the Crown Prosecution, through the feminist Crown Prosecution really is what they should be called, are trying to say, because these guys are too greedy with women, we need to rein them in. Because they sleep with women and then don't call them or don't pursue a romantic relationship with them, we need to send them to jail for 25 years. And, but yet there's no laws on the books that say this. So it's just nonsense, really. It's total nonsense.
Do you think there's a greater pressure on high-profile men? And should they show more responsibility towards women?
Again, where's the law that says they have to? If you get to a certain level of profile as an individual, let's say your income reaches a certain level or you have so many Instagram followers, your burden of responsibility needs to be higher legally. There's no laws that say that. How do you police this stuff? Now, from a moral point of view, yeah, people can say this Hepburn guy or this Jackson guy, their morals don't match my morals, so I'm not going to watch their cricket match, I'm not going to watch their rugby match, I'm not going to buy any products they endorse or whatever it is. If they're on television, I'm going to change the channel. That's okay, but that's not what we're talking about, is it? We're talking about whether they have to go to jail for 25 years or for 20 years or whether they walk free. And we're trying to conflate our moral tastes with the law. And, in the court of law, it's about the law. It's not about, he's not the kind of guy I'd want to bring home to my daughter, so now he needs to go to jail. That's not what the law says. Mm-hmm. It's about the law. You have to, you have to be, to be actually in breach of the law to be convicted. And, Jackson was totally cleared, and Hepburn is yet to be convicted so far.
Also, from a legal perspective, do you think the messages that they send to each other via WhatsApp should have been disclosed?
Yeah, I think it's fine to disclose information like this. What happens in these cases is the men's messages are disclosed, but if the woman was sending a message to her friends saying, I went back to the hotel room because I thought, I might be able to pursue a romantic relationship with the guy, all this sort of stuff. Those text messages tend not to make it into the cases. We never hold the women accountable for being complicit in the social occasion. These women have met these guys at the bar or outside the bar at 3 a.m. These guys are obviously intoxicated. The woman's wearing, makeup, short skirt, high heels, that sort of stuff. She goes back to the hotel room with the sports team. She's giving out cues related to sexual activity. And of course, if the sexual relationship or the relationship works out for her, she's happy, there's no problem.
So
hold on a sec, but if it doesn't work out for her, then we have to say it's rape. So it's a double standard.
Are you saying that women should be held responsible for putting themselves in these situations?
Everyone should be responsible for their own actions.
Yeah, but
in
it
these
seems
cases,
like you're putting you're holding women responsible for going outside or wearing makeup or flirting, let's say, but they're not breaking any law.
They're not breaking any law, of course, but nor are the guys if they pursue romantic relationships. When women wear makeup or they wear attractive clothing, they're doing it to trigger sexual arousal in men. And if
I'm wearing makeup right now.
Well, there you go. If they do that, if they go to a bar, everyone's drinking, they dress up. If they get sexual attention from men that's favourable, that's from a desirable guy, they say this is a benefit, this is a good thing. But if it's attention from men who are not desirable men, they say, no, I never gave any impression to this guy, I never tried to attract this guy. It's a double standard. That's what I'm pointing out.
I think when judging a situation like that, we have to see the whole picture, not just the...
Yeah, we have to see the whole picture. But of course, in these cases, these he said, she said cases, we put all the burden of responsibility on the man. The man invited the girl to the hotel room. The man had sex with the woman. The man didn't call her afterwards. The woman has no... So therefore, he has to go to jail for 25 years. The woman is totally, non-responsible for her own actions, is my point. And of course they should be, If we're living the age of female empowerment, why do women get all the benefits of freedom without all the responsibilities, That's why when we talk about an equal justice system, it needs to be equal for men and women. But of course in these sort of sexual assault or rape cases, women's personal responsibility is always negated and it's always diminished. She has the right to change her mind. She never has any responsibility for her own actions. Whereas the man who's just trying to pursue a romantic relationship with someone who's given him, signs that they're interested is, his life's ruined. He has to pay all the legal fees. He has to be named and shamed in public. He has to lose his job. He has to potentially go to prison. How is that a fair system?
What about men who've been falsely accused and they have been not convicted by the court, yet they are somehow censored by society?
Yeah, well, they are. But that's up to society, isn't it? Because, this is what you're talking about, the moral consequences. People can watch these court cases. You could say, I don't like Jackson from what I heard in the trial, or I don't like Hepburn from what I heard in the trial. So, I'm not gonna support their sports team or whatever it is. But we as a tax-paying society have to spend millions and millions and millions of pounds on these cases. And what are we achieving, Everyone knows that these sports players in their communities, that maybe if they're womanizing guys, they're sleeping with different girls every night of the week. Everyone in the community knows that these are sort of womanizer type of guys. So if you're a girl that's into guys that are popular with lots of women, then you know that. If you're a girl that's not interested in guys that are popular with lots of women, you know that. Why do taxpayers have to come in, spend millions just to let people know what they already know? It's just total waste. The money goes to the lawyers get rich, taxpayers get poor, and what's the point? What are we achieving as a society? We're not achieving anything.
Mm-hmm. Going back to Alex Hepburn's case, what do you think is the best outcome?
Well, the best outcome is whatever the truth is, isn't it? As a member of the public, I wasn't in the courtroom. I don't know what's going on in the courtroom on a daily basis. You can read in the newspaper the update from the press that everyone can read. But the jury has to decide based on the evidence, and they will decide. Obviously, in the last trial, they they were undecided. There just wasn't enough evidence to convict beyond a reasonable doubt. Whether there will be in the second trial or not, I don't know. I doubt it. But the taxpayers are still spending a ton of money on this process. For what purpose, you know? If it's not crystal clear that it was rape, which is highly unlikely for the reasons I've talked about, then why are we doing this? We're doing this to regulate male behaviour, male reproductive behaviour. But women's reproductive behaviour, why aren't we trying to regulate that to an equal amount so we have a fair social contract? We let women pursue their reproductive imperative any way they want, but when men want to do the same thing, we have to criminalise that. And it's just not a fair system.